Hey, we are Kristen Smedley and Mary Fran Bontempo, the dynamic duo of Brilliantly Resilient. We are thrilled to be bringing this presentation to you today about resetting and having a comeback after a setback, which I think we've all experienced. Mary Fran is going to start our slides, and we're going to dive right in.
Here we go. All right, let's get to the slideshow here.
Here we go.
There we go. Woo! Okay, so as Kristen said, we are Mary Fran and Kristen. We are proudly proclaim ourselves to be doctors of nothing. However, we do also describe ourselves as resilient rock stars, which was not necessarily a title we wanted, because in order to be a resilience rock star, you need to have gone through stuff. And I think all of us have gone through stuff, certainly in the last couple of years. So the question then becomes to you, is resilience important?
I would say, let's drop that in the chat. A simple yes or no would be sufficient. You can also, as you're thinking about this, type in a why or why not. I'll be very interested to hear those or see those answers. And we will be, since we are recording this in the replay, we will put the chat out there as well, so that you can see other folks' answers.
Yeah. So the question becomes, is resilience important? I mean, clearly I think the answer is yeah. It is. However, it's a word that's been beaten to death. And my guess would be some of you are feeling like this. Is anybody feeling like you have to be resilient every day and it just gets harder and harder and harder and you are literally pushing a boulder up the hill?
Well, if you do, which I can see we already have some stuff in the chat about, oh boy, you have no idea how much resilience I need. If you are one of those that feels like you're pushing the boulder up the hill, you're not alone. Let's go to the next slide with some of the stats.
You are not alone. But the reason that you may be feeling this way, like you're pushing a boulder up a hill, is because in a study from Everyday Health, folks, make sure that you're muted. Can we make sure that everybody's muted? Thank you. Only 57% of Americans scored as resilient, although 83% believed that they were. So people think that they are resilient, and it's not to say that they aren't, but they may not be accessing and utilizing their resilience as best as they can. So we are giving you a promise today, because we got resilient before we even know what the heck resilience was. So what we're going to promise for you today is that you will learn to reset with resilience. You'll learn to rise, to meet and master challenges, and you will learn to reveal and share your brilliance. The program that we created, Brilliantly Resilient, Reset, Rise, Reveal Your Brilliance, is one that we have returned to over and over and over again. And those three pillars, the reset, the rise, and the reveal of your brilliance, are the foundation of it. We're going to give you the best pieces of that.
Yeah, we're just going to dip our toes in it today. And honestly, it's all you need to get going on living brilliantly resilient. So you can follow the stuff that we're going to talk about today, or
you don't have to listen to us. You can feel
like this.
No judgment. This is a no judgment zone. So if you want to live like that, go for it. If you don't, I would say just try out the stuff that we're saying, because we tried it back when we didn't know we were trying it. And now we try it intentionally, and it makes all the difference. So just before we get started, we just want this to be about you, and take this hour and just allow yourself to be refreshed. So reduce any distractions, dogs, phones, kids, anything that's bothering you. And there's three quick things that we want you to remember. We want this to be interactive and fun. So at any time, drop stuff in the chat. There's going to be a ton of stuff to learn. We are going to have a Q&A at the end of this, and then we'll let you know where you can go even further to continue along your brilliantly resilient journey.
And in terms of technology, I know a lot of times the line drops with Zoom. Isn't that fun? If you drop out, just use that link, come back in, and I promise I'm keeping an eye on the waiting room to let you back in.
Yes. Okay, so you're here for a reason. You're here because you are tired of feeling overwhelmed. You want to be stronger and more resilient. You could be here because you know you're resilient, but you keep repeating the same patterns over and over and over again, and you can't get unstuck. Kristen, want to pick up?
Here's what I'd love. If you can drop in the chat which one of these you are. It's either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So the ones that Mary Fran just talked about, or maybe you're already good at uncovering your resilience, but you want to get better at the action part. Action tends to be what slows us down, right? We are going to dip our toe in that today. Maybe you can reset with resilience and begin to rise, but now you want to understand a little bit more about the brilliance. And for some of you that I've seen in this that have come in here already, I know that you are resilience rock stars also. Now you can learn a little bit about your brilliance. So put that for number 4 if that's you, or if you're just hiding from your family or your dogs like me. If that's you today, put number 5 in the chat.
Any one of them is a legitimate reason. Any one of them is legitimate to jump in there. Number 4, we've got, I can reset now. I want to reveal my brilliance. Good for you. That's great. That's where I think a lot of people are. Not a resilience rock star, often feel exhausted and isolated. Don't we all at times? It's important to understand that this is a process that we go through back and forth, back and forth. So what we are also promising is that we understand that you've been through train wrecks and sucker punches, because we have been through major train wrecks and sucker punches, and the world has collectively been in one, and we're asked to continue to always be at our best. Well, you're not always going to be at your best, but you can recapture that and work your way back up to that each time that you have a train wreck or a sucker punch.
You know, as this goes on, and we're going to share a little bit of our train wrecks and sucker punches, but it's unique to you. It's all of us have experienced different things, and some things that you think are my sucker punch that you'd never be able to handle, you might have something that I would never think that I could handle. Everyone has something happening. So we're not comparing the depth or level of train wrecks and sucker punches. This is very unique to you. We want you to be thinking in terms of your own life, of where you're at and what you're experiencing as we go through this today.
Yeah, I think the only thing that we can probably all agree on is that every single one of us has felt like this at some point or another. Like you're going down for the 3rd time and you just need help. We have all been there. And as Kristen said, everything that you're experiencing is unique to you. One of the things that we do, I think, particularly as women, is that we say, oh, I shouldn't feel like that because I have all these other wonderful things going on. Don't do that to yourself. Any kind of experience that you are having is personal to you, and you're experiencing it based on your life situation. So don't rate your experiences with each other. Learn the skills to feel better and to move forward. And we are here today to pull you up and grab that hand so that you don't go down for the 3rd time. When we figured out that we were doing this brilliantly resilient process that we learned, and through speaking to each other, we learned that we were taking the same steps. And that's why we put this into a program. We didn't have any resources when we were going through this. It was kind of like bumble and stumble our way along. And once we met each other and realized that we shared a strategy and kept putting that strategy that we're going to teach you today into place, this is the stuff that we were able to accomplish. None of it was on the plan.
This is where the brilliance comes into effect. And for those of you that were in that number a couple of slides ago that are looking to figure out now how to uncover your brilliance, we would never have known if these kinds of things were going to happen for us way back when the sucker punch hit. So no matter where you are on this continuum and in this process, it's all possible for you to uncover your brilliance and like we did. And then here we are, TEDx speakers, authors of best-selling books. We've got this show that we've celebrated our 100th anniversary. I mean, we've met all kinds of incredible people. Yes, we do say that we're world dominators and resilience rock stars, but we had no idea in the beginning, but we went through this process, and we're going to dip into that today, just a few of the key pillars.
Yeah, and we do again want to emphasize. We had some things in the comments there that you might be feeling resilient, but when all this stuff continues to pile up, and there are times when you're just exhausted, and a lot of it is emotional exhaustion. So we're going to address that today. But this is where you can go when you figure out how to move back and forth through this process and continue to put your brilliance out there. Now, how about you? This is what we want you to try to imagine, okay? Imagine if you could start each day with power, purpose, and direction. Uncover and utilize your inherent resilience.
Okay, manage and master challenges. Think about it. If you feel like you just can't do that right now, what if you could start imagining, like start getting yourself in a frame of mind that you are these things, and that'll help your mindset as you go through this.
Yeah. And notice we didn't say solve the challenges. We said manage and master them so that you can work through it in your life. You can apply your transferable skills. This is one of the biggest things that we want to talk about here, is how you have these transferable skills and you can apply them to move forward with any challenge and discover your brilliance, your unique brilliance. And finally, then create that action plan to rise and thrive. Okay. Oh, the last thing, work and live with a brilliantly resilient mindset. Mindset's a big piece of this. And I know that's an overused word, right, Kay?
Yeah, and you know what? We're saying mindset and process. This is what we want you to remember as we go through this. You're going to hear about how we sound like we perfected this process. It is a process, because then the next sucker punch comes and then you got to do it all over again. And the one thing I will say is the more it happens and the more you go through the process, the better you get, but it's going to keep on happening. So let's see what's on the next one so we can get to the really good stuff that we're going to dive into.
Okay, so you're here today because you want something to change. So let's make that happen. So today we're going to learn how you reset your mindset with resilience and perception. You're going to learn how to rise and thrive as a 15-minute master. And finally, you're going to learn how to activate what we call your bucket of brilliance. Okay, so our goal today is to teach you our best and simplest tools so that you can make those smart decisions to move beyond crisis and challenges with that brilliantly resilient mindset. Sound good to everybody?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just saying, sound good to everybody. I hope that we're conveying that this is a simple process that you can use over and over again.
But let's start with things that you may agree with that are actually myths. Let's dive into a few of those so we can really get in the right mindset together, all of us moving forward.
Okay, so yeah, so these are some myths about resilience. Myth number one, resilience must be learned. You see that little baby? That little baby just didn't get up one day and start walking. That little baby got up and fell down, got up and fell down, got up and fell down. And each time that baby got up, it was because of inherent resilience. These are some people that we're going to show you that talk about how we were able to talk to them, and their idea about resilience is pretty much the same as ours. This is Tiffany O'Donnell, who is the leader of Women Lead Change, and she also happens to be the newly elected mayor of Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And she says that resilience has never been more critical, but she says Mary, Fran, and Kristen know from unique experience how to flex those resilience muscles, and we can translate those experiences into tactical development. A lot of big words saying that, you know, we've been there and we can serve as a resource for you. So resilience does not have to be learned. You got it. Here's myth number two.
Big problems require big solutions. No, they don't. That's not how we do it. I mean, it may end up when you look back that the solution was a big set of a lot of steps, but you can take, or you should, and we will show you how to take one step at a time to attack the big problem. Think about it. How often are you not wanting to move forward, not uncovering your resilience, not taking action because it just seems too big, and it is easier to bury your head on the couch and watch Netflix? That big problems do not require big solutions. And we've got a little backup there
Here's our
for
guy.
him. The guy that created Pictionary. He happens to be a good friend of ours now. Through the show, we've met him. He says the exact same thing. It is just, think about it. He created the #1 game in the world. He was a waiter and decided to maybe try something. And he had so many setbacks bringing it into the world. But his thing is, it is small action steps that lead to the big solving of the big problem. Take it from Rob.
Take it from Rob if you don't believe us. And myth number
There
3,
you go.
only special people are brilliant. I mean, first of all, if you saw this guy on the street, seriously, would you think he's brilliant? Look at that hair. Only special people. No, they're not. Not only special people are brilliant. This comes from one of our tribe members who sent this to us. And she has a scar on her hand. She had a tough time of things. She had a scar on her hand. I think she got it in some kind of a bad situation. But she said it looks similar to a bee. And she realizes that it's not just a reminder of what she dealt with. It's a reminder of how she got through it via methods and strategies we described, came out better, healthier, and stronger. She's brilliantly resilient.
She's got to be to prove it.
Yeah. Well, she's got to be to prove it, right? All of us are brilliantly resilient. This is accessible to you. Here's where it starts. You reset with the resilience, but it starts with a decision. Are you just visiting your sucker punch or train wreck, or are you going to live there? You make that choice. Whatever you are going through, this moment in time is just that. Obviously, when you're going through it, it feels like it lasts way longer than a moment. But at the end of the day, this particular challenge or whatever you're going through will not define you for the rest of your life. It will add things to your life. It will change you, but it won't define you unless you decide to unpack your bags and live there.
Let's see what's on the
Here's Kristen's take on all of this. I love this one.
Yeah, the biggest question you want to ask yourself after you've decided, or if you're trying to decide if you're going to unpack and live there, or if you're going to move on, you're going to come through this. Like, life keeps going. And we're all old enough, not that I know all of your ages, but I know the relative. We're all old enough to know life keeps going. And you have to ask yourself if you want to keep going as broken, or if you want to arrive at brilliant. Think about it. And I know that we've all done it. We've all moved through and stayed broken. And then we're like, oh, I stayed broken for too long. I've been there. But you can flip the switch. You can make that decision right now. You can make the decision when you're in the worst of it to say, I'm going to turn a page and write a whole new movie scene for this. I want to come through brilliant, not broken. And here's
you have to make the decision. We talk about this mindset piece. And when people talk about mindset, it's like this weird, nebulous thing that sounds new agey. It's very simple. It starts with declaring things like this. I want to come through brilliant. I am not going to live here. Make that decision. And now Kristen's going to tell you her story.
So I want you to take a look at this picture. If you can't see it, it is a very calm ocean. The sun appears to be either setting or rising. It's a nice orange sky. And there what looks like maybe a little family in a little canoe or kayak with 3 people. And they have oars and are paddling. I actually, in my presentations, have put this up and asked people if they thought that this was calming or stressful. So you can put in the chat if you think that this is calming or stressful. And people think that it's a picture from my vacation. It's not. But for me, this scene was the scene of my life 22 years ago that was the most stress, the biggest sucker punch I had ever hit, that had ever hit me in my entire life. So for me, this was the day that I found out that my firstborn baby at 5 months old was blind. A doctor said to me, Kristen, he's blind. And I'm not exactly proud of it, but my first question was, will he play baseball? I don't know who says that when you hear that your child is blind, but here's the thing. And the answer, of course, was no. He wasn't going to drive. He wasn't going to be the valedictorian. He wasn't going to do any of the things in my mind at that moment that I had planned through those 9 months of him growing in my belly. And for those of you that have had a baby grow in your belly, how about the fact that you find out you're pregnant and you're like, I just want a healthy baby. And if you're me, by month 8, you've got him pitching on the mound for the Phillies, catching the winning touchdown for the Eagles, the valedictorian, the summa cum laude, the wedding, the everything, right? So in that moment, not only was I told he was blind and none of my dreams were going to come true, I was told, good luck. I was given no resources. I wasn't given anything. And to be perfectly honest, Michael was the first blind person I had ever met. So you can imagine, I had no knowledge about blindness. I had no thing to even consider about thriving or anything normal in life. So what does that do to a person like me who's such a planner and such an achiever and so ready to watch my kids soar? It brought me to my couch to sit in tears for 3 years. I would fake it all day long, smile through those tears as I was watching Michael grow and watching all the things he was missing out on. And then it was one day after I had prayed blindness away every single night. I mean, think about whatever you're in the midst of right now, and you're praying it away and it won't go away. It's every morning, waking up to the same thing. Every night I would pray that it would go away. And every morning I go in and get Michael and he was still blind. So I was angry, I was scared, I was sad. And one day in the midst of my most saddest of all time, pit ugly cry, like, God, you suck moments, Michael at 3 years old came bouncing into my bedroom. He was always bouncing. He was never just walking. He was always bouncing and skipping and happy. And Michael came bounced right in front of me and he said, Mommy, isn't this the best day ever? And I thought, you have no idea how bad your life is. You have no idea how bad blindness is. You have no idea what your life is going to be like and the struggle that you're going to constantly be in. And I said to him, why do you think this is the best day ever? He said, Mommy, I have all my toys. The sun is shining and I'm just so happy. And he spun around, went back to his happiest life. And it hit me harder than the sucker punch hit me. And I thought, Michael wasn't bothered by blindness. I was bothered by blindness. I saw it as the barrier to him having a successful life. Michael saw it as a mere inconvenience, maybe, but he did not see it as a barrier. He actually didn't even contemplate the fact that he couldn't see. It didn't bother him. In that moment, I saw that I was the one that was blind to my son have an amazing life. I was the one that should have been praying for myself to have the blindness taken away. And that's when I realized that how I was looking at blindness, devastating, lonely, suck, was exactly what my life was. Devastating, lonely, suck, because I was looking at the challenge that way. And I can tell you with 1,000% certainty, as soon as that happened with Michael, and I was like looking at the other lens, the other side of my head, saying, he doesn't see the monkey bars as something that, oh, I can't see them and reach up. He would just feel his way up there. He didn't see an opportunity to go outside and play as the biggest challenge of his life. He would listen. What's out there? I know that the truck just came down the street and the neighbor's home. I can hear the car. Michael was feeling his way through everything he wanted to do. Blindness wasn't bothering him. He looked at it as super fun opportunity. And once I started doing that too, everything changed for us. I'm telling you, how you look at your challenge and then look at what's happening. They're exactly related. We'll talk about how to switch that as well. If we want to go back to the slides here.
There we go. So
here's the thing, and this is, we bring in the smart people and the science to tell you it's not just us. Ralph Waldo Emerson says people only see what they're prepared to see. I knew of blindness as devastating because I didn't know the possibility it could be just a mere inconvenience. Now I know that. Nothing has stopped my boys. I ended up having a second blind son as well. Nothing has stopped them because they have been prepared to see blindness as a mere inconvenience. You're prepared by what you see. Now, how do you do that? How do you have this life-changing change in perception? We have resources that will tell you at the end to do more of a deep dive into this. But I'm telling you, the number one thing you can do is gather information. I had to find people that were thriving with blindness. When I was going through divorce, I had to find people that were on the other side thriving, not the ones that were still sitting at the bar bitching, right? I don't want to be like that. I had to get information about the life that I wanted to create. So gathering information is a number one to help you change your perception. The other thing is check your blind spots. No pun intended. You got to see what you still have in the way that you have to remove from how you're looking at things. And then, and we deep dive into this in some stuff that we'll tell you about later, you have to disrupt that racing mind that is saying, oh my God, if you're going through divorce, oh my God, I'm never going to meet somebody else. I can't even imagine dating. Oh my God, I don't even know if any of my clothes match. Like, stop. You just got to hit the stop button. And then you got to get back into a mindset of, hold on a minute, let me get more information and have a brilliantly resilient mindset. We're going to show you how to do that.
And here they are. Here they are, folks.
So on well, my left, I don't know if it's your left because I still haven't figured out the Zoom flip here. Michael, one of my dreams for him, he didn't even know about, was that I had imagined him as the valedictorian at high school, and he did achieve that. And as a matter of fact, he's now about to graduate Penn State, and he's going to be, it's called the Marshal. It's like the valedictorian, but you don't have to give a speech. You lead the procession. So me and my daughter keep calling it the line leader. He's like, that's not funny. But anyway, he's gotten all kinds of accolades. He just landed in the top 5%. Mitchell is right behind him. He's in college too, doing all kinds. They're living their dreams because they've been able to soar without the weight of my own dreams on them. And I do have a sighted daughter, Carissa, that always kind of gets left out of the equation, but she's the one that is silently in the background keeping us all running. Because my perception of blindness changed, I got to see the real role that a mom plays in a kiddo's life. And my guys have been able, and Carissa have been able to soar doing the stuff that they want to do.
There you go. So, it's funny, whenever Kristen talks about this part of it, I think of that, what people used to say when we were kids, put yourself in someone else's shoes, put your perspective in, and your perception in some other person's eyes. See how they see it. As Kristen said, no pun intended, but look through someone else's eyes and see if maybe you're not putting your own baggage on this, your own experiences, and expecting negativity when in fact that may not be the case. Okay, so now step number 2, that was the reset part, then, and you can tweak the reset with your perception. Here's how we're going to rise. We're going to rise and we are going to learn to become a 15-minute master. Folks, this is my specialty, and I'm going to tell you why this is my specialty. On Mother's Day of 2010, I learned that my son David was a heroin addict. We were at my mother's house, and I had just left a room and then heard a commotion from the room that I had just left. And I went back into that room to see David shaking uncontrollably on the couch. So we called the emergency crew, and the ambulance came, and the EMT said, what did you take? They kept saying, what did you take? And I'm looking at them thinking, this kid's having a seizure, get him to the hospital. Now, understand that David was not a perfect kid by any means. And then one day, and then a heroin addict the next day. But I wasn't seeing it. So to piggyback on what Kristen talked about your perception, I was making friends with distraction and denial. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. We got David to the hospital where the doctors told us that he had ingested a painkiller and overdosed on that because he could not get his hands on heroin that day. They also told us that if they could not reverse the effects of that painkiller because it was high in acetaminophen, that he would need a liver transplant if he lived. This was my Mother's Day gift. So I spent Mother's Day night on a little 2-seater couch in a waiting room in a hospital, trying to get a little bit of sleep and praying that my son would make it through the night. Thank God he did. The next day, they told us that they were able to reverse the effects of that medication. and he would not need a liver transplant. So after I got done thanking God for the life of my son, I then realized that I had a lot of work to do, because I was looking through the lens of explaining David's issues away because I couldn't handle what was right in front of me. I couldn't handle it. And I waited too long to do something about it. And thank God that that crisis didn't have the other ending that it could have had, because I would be telling a very different story right now. When you see something staring you in the face, again, check your perception of what it is. Do not make friends with distraction and denial because you're afraid you can't handle something. Nobody thinks they can handle big things, but guess what? We do, because we have no choice. And if I had interceded sooner, we may have had a very different story and David might not have overdosed. But I don't want to say I'm grateful for that. Kristen and I make very sure that we never say we are grateful for our sucker punches, because they suck. They're terrible. We don't want anybody to say, oh, it was a blessing. No, it wasn't. It was not a blessing. It was a horror show that was just beginning. So what happened, people would say to us after they found out that that David was an addict and that we were dealing with this. First of all, when my husband came to the hospital to relieve me that day after we found out that David was going to survive, the first thing I did was go home and, as Kristen said, gathered information. I knew I was in way over my head. Not only did I have no idea of what to do to fix him, I didn't know where to start. So I started by Googling rehab centers, because I knew that I had been dealing with this kid for years with issues. Nothing I did worked. I needed experts. I needed to expand my tribe. And the first thing I needed to do was kick denial and distraction to the curb. This was not a kid going through a phase. This was not a kid struggling with his career and all of that kind of thing. You're right. You know what, Kim? You're totally right. Oh, it was a blessing in disguise. No, it was not a blessing. It was awful. It was terrible. If I could have chosen not to go through this, I would choose not to go through this. But it happened. We don't get those choices. We get the choice of what we do about it. So we choose not to live there. We choose to change our perception, and we choose to take some sort of action. I got David into rehab. And when people would say to my husband and I, oh, you're just going to have to take it one day at a time, we would laugh, not to their faces because they were trying to be kind. I'd say, you didn't live with a drug addict, did you? Because life with an addict changes exponentially in minutes. We couldn't take a day at a time. We couldn't take a half a day. We couldn't take an hour. We were down to 15 minutes. And the first thing that you do to become a 15-minute master is you live within the next 15 minutes. That's what you do. Don't expect more from yourself in the moment of crisis than to just get through the next 15 minutes. And then you get through the 15 minutes after that, and you get through the 15 minutes after that with the basics. When things start to calm down a little bit, that is when you can take that next 15 minutes and think, okay, what can I do now to move forward? I'm going to go back to screen sharing again here so that we can get back into this and learn what we can do to be a 15-minute master. And if you don't believe me, you don't have to believe me, believe Oprah. Doing the best thing in a 15-minute moment puts you in the best place for the next moment.
Yeah.
So
and you build momentum.
That's it. Yeah. You build on that 15 minutes, but you don't, when you're hit with a crisis, take the whole thing on. This goes back to what we said earlier about small steps. I could not solve my son's addiction. I could just pray that he was there and then find the resources, as Kristen said, find the resources for him. So now, what can you do to become a 15-minute master? And note the word can. Note how it's in big letters, capitalized. What can you do? Not what do you want to do, not what do you pray is going to happen. but what can you, within the reality that you have, what can you do? The first step, live within the next 15 minutes and give yourself the grace to just experience that and get through it. If you're in crisis and you can get to the end of the day and put your head down on the pillow and you've survived, that's a win. Take it for what it is. And as the crisis part of it abates, which it will, a crisis always ends, that moment of it, that's when you start to think and plan. And when you think and plan, this is the next thing you don't do. You beware of the land of magical thinking. The magical thinking place where we go, if only I could do this, if only this happened, if only I coulda, woulda, shoulda done this. No, 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 no. Do not torture yourself with that. What's the truth? What's the reality? What are the facts that you have to deal with? Only then will you be able to take an action step, which is your third piece of this. One action step. You don't try to splinter yourself into a million pieces. What is one action step that you can take based on the facts and not the land of magical thinking? And then when you take that one action step, here's the other thing. Do not be married to outcomes.
It's not all going to go according to plan. I have learned that. I think everybody is probably sitting watching their Zoom screen and listening and go, nothing in the past 2 years has gone according to plan. And then you got to just try it again. You try something else. But you notice in the picture there, in case you can't see it, or if you're just on audio, there are two paths leading, and they both go, it looks to me, I would like to run on both of those paths at different points. They're going to end up somewhere, and you just have to let it go. You do the best that you can. You do all the things that we've talked about so far, and then you don't be married to outcomes. Let's get to the next piece though, because it is the piece everybody's always loving.
So here's David.
Here
first of all, here's the evil twin on the left side, at least of my screen, and here's the healthy David on the right side. David is now married, father of 3, as you can see over there. He does work in the recovery field. Again, take a look at those pictures on the left. No blessing here. No blessing. This was not a blessing, but the person that he is today is a blessing. But the only way I got through it was becoming a 15-minute master, learning to check my perception and get rid of distraction and denial and not be married to outcomes.
I love getting to that picture of David though, because I like to kind of race it through, because I'm like, we leave everybody hanging as you on the chair on Mother's Day and wanting to just choke him if he actually makes it through. And then to know him now, I can't stop smiling. He's got such a great life now.
An amazing person. But this is the part now where we talk to you about how to reveal your, I know those of you of a certain age, you're hearing that cover girl thing, easy, breezy, beautiful cover girl. Reveal your easy, breezy, beautiful brilliance. Now, how do we do that? Let's assure you, first of all, you are brilliant.
And it is easy breezy. Take it from, okay, you don't have to put it in the chat, but it's okay. If you wear Spanx, I am addicted to them. I think it's one of the greatest inventions in the world. And this is Sarah Blakely, who founded that company. Follow her story. She is as hilarious as she is a genius. But her thing is, she wasn't going out there to create the biggest product for women ever. I think she just sold the company for $1.something billion. That wasn't her goal. She just needed something that didn't exist. That's how she ended up. And quite frankly, we've created this process because it was something that didn't exist for us, so we can help you. So your brilliance is the easy breezy thing. It is not hard. Let's dive into it a little bit so we don't run out of time.
Yep. So here's the thing about brilliance. Your setbacks can be the birth of brilliance. Now, what does that mean? When you experience a challenge or a setback, it takes away many things from you. It takes away who you thought you were, your identity. It takes away your confidence. It takes away all of those things. What your brilliance is, that stuff that is within you that it's your go-to. So for example, for me, when I was in that state with David, I am a teacher by education and trade. And consequently, I'm a reader, I'm a researcher. One of my areas of brilliance is being able to research things and find answers. So when I had that crisis, I went and found through research, through learning, through asking questions, through assembling a team of experts. I went and found those people that I needed to help me because I tapped into that area of brilliance that is a natural for me.
Yeah. And I mean, you got to think about, what are you naturally good at? What do people call you and say, come pick your brain about this? Because you're the go-to person and it sounds so easy for you, but for other people, that's your brilliance. And we're going to send after when you get the replay, we're going to send you some links on other spots you can go to start thinking about uncovering your brilliance. And then we have a program coming out later that we'll tell you about when it comes out, about really figuring out what's in your bucket of brilliance. And think about it, it's a bucket. It is a bucket. There are a lot of things going on in your brilliance. It's not just one thing.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one. I want to make sure, I'm looking at the time and I want to make sure that we get to some of this really cool stuff.
Okay. One thing I want to jump in on with this is that you can use these skills every day. They are transferable. That's the beauty of your being brilliant. And it is your gift. It's your gift to the world. It's your gift to you. That's why it's not hard. We think in this world that everything that's valuable has to have blood, sweat, and tears. Not your brilliance. It's easy, breezy, beautiful. It's those things that you're good at, those transferable skills that you can use and take from place to place. You have them. If you don't know what they are, ask your girlfriends. They know what your brilliance is. So then the key is to activate your brilliance. Okay, so how do you activate your brilliance? Well, as we just said, you already take that brilliance and those skills and you move them from place to place. Look at a challenge and figure out what that special thing is that you have that you can get it in there.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. Let's go to our friend Kate Erickson next, who says, just take imperfect action. How brilliant is that? It doesn't have to be perfect. Oops. Mary Fran's got this, one of her grandkids was sitting at the beach and was trying to make a sandcastle with drip sand or something, and it didn't work. And what does she do? She goes, oops, that didn't work out, and moves on to figure a different way. Like, think about it like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just take some action to get that brilliance out into the world.
When you take action, one of two things is going to happen, something or nothing. So if nothing happens, you pick another step. And if something happens, you figure out what that was and you base your next step on that, but it is imperfect. So here's your brilliant takeaways. Here's what we want you to remember from today. I'm going to let you do this one, Kate, because this is you.
Reset. That's how you reset your mindset. When you start swirling, and oh my God, I can't handle this. And oh my God, we're going to be in COVID lockdown forever. And oh my God, I'm never going to have toilet paper. Hold up, hit the stop button and think about, how are you looking at it? What is your perception of the situation and how does it need to change? Then the next one.
The next one is rise like a 15-minute master. We're breaking this down, people. Big problems do not get solved by big solutions. They get solved by your step by step by step, 15 minutes, and your action plan goes on from there. You reveal your brilliance by activating. Activate what's in that bucket of brilliance. And like Kristen said, it's a bucket. There's a lot of stuff in there that you can pull out and use those transferable skills.
You ever see those water parks where the giant bucket fills with water and then it dumps on everybody? Imagine that's all the drip, 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 all the things of your brilliance, and then you're going to dump it out on the world. There you go. How about that?
And remember that you are brilliantly resilient. We all are brilliantly resilient. You have that ability. Okay, so these are a couple of things that we just want to show you real quick from people that we've been fortunate to engage with, who echo our brilliance.
Hit this out of the ballpark. The theme of brilliantly resilient is so important, not just for women as moms, in dealing with children, as both of them have had to do. It's really about how we take that concept and apply it to every aspect of our life, whether it's our interpersonal relationships, our parenting, our work, but it was brilliantly presented. And it definitely showed us how to walk away with resilience and have action steps that we can take in our everyday life. And it was just powerful and beautifully presented.
So that's one of our buddies. This is a friend of Kristen's, actually, and an award-winning teacher.
Yeah, I mean, this is somebody that we wanted to bring to you really quickly, Kathy Nimmer, who is a Teacher of the Year in the United States. And she finds that the Brilliantly Resilient process has helped her because she realizes that she was finally connecting the dots and releasing the disappointments in her life, and that the journey is really worth taking to live brilliantly resilient. She's a really cool person. And
And
we've got
she embodies it. The thing that was gratifying talking to her is that we were able to connect with her on so many of the ways to live a brilliantly resilient life. And this is one of our favorite buddies, Dr. David Feigenbaum, who is the author of Chasing My Cure. David has I guess was a terminal disease, and decided that after he was told there was nothing more that people could do for him, the doctors, that he was going to figure this out. And he put his skills into finding a cure for his own illness. And he very kindly says that we inspired him. What? Through Brilliantly Resilient to fight harder than ever. And you get the tools and strategies, which are very simple. And honestly, people, you're probably using these already in your life, but when you recognize them for what they are, then you can call upon them with intention.
Yeah.
So here's what we want to know. Put in the chat, what was the most useful thing that you learned today? Is there anything that resonated with you? This always interests us because, we feel like the people that we talk to are us with different circumstances. So put in the chat, if you would, if there's anything that resonated with you today.
I'm curious to know too, is it the reset, the rise, or the revealing of your brilliance that you learned the most about today, in addition to if there was something that just jumped out? So as we're wrapping up here, give that some thought and drop that in the chat.
We have a couple of things coming up that we want to share with you that are super exciting. We have somebody jumping in on the chat here.
For the rise. There you go.
The rise. The inspiration for the rise. It is that small action step, 15 minutes at a time, and just take imperfect action. Do something and stop worrying about it. So we want to share something with you, if that's okay. Can we do that? I hope we can do that and you'll be okay with that. Here's what we got for you. We have a reset course. Yay!
You guys are the first to know, and the first that this is going to be available to. That this is where we are going to deep dive into just the pillar of reset. So if that was something that today you were like, oh man, I need a little more meat and potatoes on that than just a perception, right? That's what the reset course is. This is where it is the beginning of the Brilliantly Resilient process. And when you can really get your head around how to reset with the 3 pillars of values, perception, and controlling the controllables, it just becomes a lot easier to go into the rise and then the reveal of your brilliance. And let's face it, we are constantly having to reset. I have practiced this pillar so many times in the past 9 months alone. It is absolutely insane. This is one course that you do at your own pace we're going to show you it's not just us in it, because you do not want to just learn the things that we've learned. We've gathered the other folks that we've talked to over the past 2 years and found the really brilliant things that are going to help you with those 3 pillars. So let's go into who's involved and what this course looks like.
Yeah, and there is a work-ish book attached to this course that we have you go through. It's very simple because we don't do anything that requires a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. This is one of the guys you'll hear from, Dr. Lee Warren, who is a very good friend of Kristen's. Lee is a brain surgeon. He, in addition to serving, was it the Iraq War that he served in? Is that correct?
Yeah, he was active duty, and also, so not only does he have that going on, he also lost a son at 19 his son was 19 in a very tragic accident. He is an extremely faithful man, and kind of his books are wonderful. And the way that his contribution to this course will really give you an idea of how you can still have hope, how you uncover hope, how you find hope in the midst of the sucker punch when you're trying to reset. He is absolutely brilliant. He's actually a very good friend of Max Lucado, for those of you that are deep in the faith-based world as I am. But Lee, and he has you see our faces in this picture. We are extremely calm. He has a very calming way about him that is just phenomenal. And then we've got another cool bit that in this course.
Our buddy Rob. We just can't get enough of Rob Angel, our Pictionary buddy. who, as I said, you see down here, creator of Pictionary. Yes, that Pictionary. Rob is delightfully funny. He is charming, and he's so down to earth in terms of the way he executed his own brilliance, which, you know, when you kind of come upon your brilliance, a lot of times you're stumbling upon it. And it is that imperfect action that leads you to really see what it is and how it can affect the world. So we've got Rob, who also was just recently on a stage with the guy who founded Uggs.
Yeah, these are the folks that Rob hangs out with, and he is literally traveling the world on stages all over the place. But the thing that this is what we wanted to give you a flavor of what Rob contributes to the Reset course. He realized one day when he was getting no after no after no with this game. Can you imagine the biggest game in the world got a million no's in the beginning? He had to realize that his brilliance wasn't that he was selling a game, he was selling fun. He completely changes your perception on what it is that you're involved in. And you're gonna, I don't want to reveal too much, but we give you those tips from him in this course. And then we've got the next piece. Here you go.
A couple of things, yeah, from these are people that we've worked with. The one woman, Deborah, who is, after being kind of scattered, she was kind of all over the place. And she worked with us, and now she is Miss Wheelchair California, USA, and she's advocating on her platform. She figured out what her brilliance was, and it really just took somebody else looking at her and what she was doing and saying to her, you know what, this is where you're really good. This is what you need to think about. But she also needed a lot of help with the beginning piece, that reset piece. She had challenges and just figuring out how to lay that foundation so that you can then go and do the rise and build your brilliance. And another testimonial there.
Yeah, and you know what, let's move to the next slide, because they get to have the reset. They get to have the replay, and you guys could go ahead and look at all those. So this is what we really wanted to get to also. So
yes, with this course,
like we said, it's not being offered just yet to everybody else. This is the pre-order of the course just for you guys that have come into this, to the live or seeing the replay that will be available for 48 hours once we shut down. You know, we are putting this out in the world for $147, but we're giving it to you guys if you pre-order it for $47. It comes out in, I'm not remembering what day of the week it is right now, but it comes out in about 3 or 4 weeks. Is that weird that COVID makes me not understand just how much time goes by? But anyway, it comes out in the middle of April, and you can get it. And like we said, you deep dive, you get info from our friends, Lee, Rob, and others about really how to reset and set yourself up to live brilliantly resilient. I'm going to drop in the chat while Mary Fran goes through the next piece, the link that you can pre-order and secure that price.
So this is it, folks. We really want to thank you for being with us today. We really hope that we were able to help you along on this reset and coming back from a setback, this part of the journey with those skills of checking your perception, making sure you're dealing with the truth, not in the land of magical thinking, learning how to rise 15 minutes at a time, and then learning how to dig into your personal bucket of brilliance. Those things that you are good at that come easily to you. This reset course that we are digging into and offering to you guys, we really believe in it. We've lived it. We live it over and over and over and over again. And we just think that we want to share this with everybody because we didn't have resources. So we want to be the resource that you guys have that we did not.
And shockingly, we actually ended with 3 minutes to spare. We know everybody want to honor everybody's time. So we will, maybe we'll stop screen sharing if people want to stay and ask some questions, but I did drop the link in the chat. And when we send out the replay in a couple of hours, you will get the link for that pre-order of the course and additional resources that we talked about. So if you want to raise a hand or turn your, we will stop recording now. So if anybody has any questions that they want to ask, that they